would it be that then trying to stop risk as much as possible is kind of in contradiction with innovation? Because at the end, there is always risk when you try to implement some innovative solutions or innovative processes.
100%. And that's basically the problem that I found in South America. That there's no the risk that represents to take a step forward in terms of innovation is huge. Because if it doesn't work, there's no that time you invested in putting something in place. Well, if you cannot take any advantage from that, then somebody else will. Well, somebody else learn. Okay, that's not the way. It was the other option. I'm taking that one.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Cold Secrets. Today I'm very happy to have as guest speaker Jorge. Welcome, Jorge.
Hi Miguel, how's it going, man? Thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. First of all, let's explain who is Jorge.
Who is Jorge? Yeah, well, who is Jorge is a very complicated question.
I was not expecting to be that complicated. The first one it was more an icebreaker.
No, I'm just trying to do a little bit of icebreaker. But okay, so a little bit of my background. I'm an engineer. My academic background is an industry engineer. I've been working in supply chain for over 16 years plus. And funny story is that I've been moving through different industries. So I started in retail, and I started like the hardcore environment of warehousing, retail, fast-moving, big loads, and so on and so forth. And I moved across different roles while I was in my first 10 years. I would say I've been a transport analyst. I've been a last mile distribution supervisor when e-commerce was starting. I'm talking about 2010, 2009, more or less, 2010. Then I moved towards planning, and then I had the first chance to be responsible for a full implementation of a warehouse as a warehouse manager, and also was a little bit of planning in there. But it was amazing because we had the chance to build the full ERP from scratch. We had the IT team that was supporting us, basically telling us what should we build. And it was with me and my director there just creating a new system. It was called Flexi back then.
But it
was an in-house system, full ERP with WMS and everything you can imagine. So it was replicating, it was picking up things that we had across the industry in the previous years, and we were just building a little creature in a way. It has pros and cons, of course. It's cheaper, but also you can also create dead ends. And you're not aware of that. But that was great because along with the ERP development implementation, we also had to build a full team. So hire 3PL, decided if we want to build our own operations or move towards a 3PL partner, and then start building up from there. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I've had in my career so far. I had a great experience there. It was just like a fast, intense course of learn how to do logistics and supply chain, So it was insane. It was great. 2 years after that, I moved back to the company I originally started at in retail, big retail company, second largest in Peru. Originally, by the way, I'm from Peru. I didn't say that.
Nice food. Probably one of the best foods in the world.
Yeah, sorry about that. And then I had the chance to be a supply chain manager there, where I was responsible for all the supply across nation in all the stores. And then later on, I moved to the Netherlands. So I came to study a master's here. And after 2 years, I also worked here. That was my first introduction experience in the Dutch market. But after 2 years, I received a very attractive job offer to come back to Peru, and I decided it was worth to take the chance. So I moved back. But 1 year after that, yeah, you're like, okay, something has changed. You know, you're not the same person. Once you immigrate, you change a lot. You develop, you grow as a person. You kind of, the genie is out of the box in a way, or the bottle. That's the saying. And then it's hard to put it back. And you start seeing things that you cannot cope with in a way, you know? So then eventually I decided to move back to the Netherlands. So in 2022, I moved back and I had a great opportunity to join J&J. So I was the distribution center manager for a medium-sized cluster that we had. It was for the Netherlands, but also part of the supply that we had with Belgium, with UK, with Sweden, and France.
Okay.
So it was quite interesting because it was my first approach towards the healthcare industry. It was for medtech. So all the medical devices that were there, basically implants, knees, hips, spine. And later on, I got this opportunity at my last role at Galapagos. Initially was supply chain lead, but eventually the role evolved itself to the head of EU supply chain. And that was, again, one of the, together with the previous one I mentioned, that was what is one of the most exciting roles I've ever had. I had the task to build a full supply chain department from scratch to support the oncology department, which was under developing and it was moving towards a commercial stage. So it was going through the clinical phase. The end goal was to have to go through pivotal stage and later on have a full commercial department, right? Operations. So that was my initial task. When I started, it was only me and one warehouse supervisor, but we had no warehouse, we had no operators, we had no processes. Everything was basically, well, is there, just order it, or is there, just pick it up. There was no replenishing process, there was no network control over visibility on materials, no planning department, there was no reaction or proactivity in that sense, you know, everything was reactive. And everyone was doing a little bit of supply chain. So the first task was, okay, how do we start creating the boundaries or the framework of what supply chain should be in this company, right? What tasks are being done by other people already, but in different ways, no standardization. Which task has to come to us, and how do we standardize them, you know? And then how do we build the team, and then how do we train the team, and then which things should be. So that was my last role. I won't dive so much into that because probably we'll discuss it later.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much about me. So I've been in multiple industries, in multiple markets, and in multiple companies that have been in different phases in their lifetime, let's say.
Yeah, from clinical trial to commercial operations, healthcare, also retail, combination between Peru and the Netherlands. So it's a good mix, Jorge.
I'm a very interesting mix, I would say.
Okay, so it was a difficult question, but I think you managed quite well to answer it. I think you are probably the best person to answer this type of question about who Jorge is. I cannot imagine there is a better person to answer that one. But I have to say that you focus on the pure professional aspect, and we want to know you also as a person, which are your motivations, your feelings, and so on. And then, if I may, Jorge, I've prepared like a short list of quick questions, trying to understand a bit more who is Jorge and which are your motivations, your hobbies, what do you like the most, and so on. Okay?
Sounds good. So about my personal, let's say, angle of my self-being, well, I'm 40. And
let's do something, Jorge, because I have here the list of questions. I drop you the question and then you try to answer.
Let's do that.
Yeah? So what's your age, Jorge?
I'm 40. I'm
Perfect.
40 years old. Yeah, I did. But luckily, I don't have much gray hairs just yet, but they will come. 'Cause my dad is
Yeah,
fully
they are
gray
coming.
hair. Like,
I'm 38, Jorge, and they are also coming. So,
yeah, they will come. They will come. For sure.
uh, well, you mentioned which country do you live? You live in the Netherlands
I
now,
lived in the
right?
Netherlands since 2019. Then I moved back 1 year to Peru in 2021. And then I moved back in 2022, and I've been in the Netherlands ever since. Yes.
Okay, and now if we can forget about everything related to logistics and supply chain, and you can freely choose in which country would you live, which one would you choose?
Among these two countries that I've been into,
No,
or in,
anywhere in the world. That maybe a place that you just visited and you felt in love, or you can feel free to choose.
wow, man, that's a really nice question. Huh? I've never asked myself that. Where would I like to live? Because I tried once to move back to Peru, and recently I got also a small, I would say proposal, but it was a small conversation to see the possibility to move back to Peru, and I kind of had a hard time seeing myself back in the country. On the other hand, I also visit the US a lot, and I've been around several countries, have for different reasons. And this might be controversial, but I don't like the US that much. I like a little bit more the European mindset. But what I'm struggling with in Northern Europe, at least here in the Netherlands, is the weather. So everything works, people are nice, but yeah, the weather, man. So yeah, I don't know. Can I answer that later?
Absolutely.
We come back to it later.
Let's move to next one. I wanted to say because I was also working in the Netherlands for a few years,
Yeah.
and you mentioned about the mindset, and I found, I mean, the weather, there is a big difference that there is no doubt about it, but in terms of mindset and mentality, I was working in Rotterdam. And the mindset of Rotterdammers and Catalan people like me are very similar.
Are similar.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they are direct. They know what they want to do. They tell you right away. So it's very clear, transparent. So I mean, it's completely different weather, but similar business mindset at least.
Oh wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Okay, Jorge, that's maybe even more interesting. What's the most useless talent that you have?
Useless talent that I have. I don't know, man,
You
I
have
can't do
any?
that in here though. But I can twist my tongue in a weird way.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to do so.
I used to play that with my nephews, and now probably will teach that to my kids. And yeah, this is a useless talent because not many people can do that. So it's very useless.
Very useless, definitely.
It's okay.
Jorge, are you a sea or a mountain person?
A mountain person. I'm a mountain person. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And what's your favorite holidays and why?
My favorite holidays. What do you mean? Like the some holidays that I have taken in the past, or the favorite dates that I have to go on holidays?
No, the places, the place that you like the most, when you were on holidays.
In Peru, there's a place that is called. It's not. There's not much special. Nothing special about it, or not big things, major things to be special about. But there's a beach on the north. Even though I'm not a beach person, I used to spend a lot of time with my family there. And it's a beach in the north of Peru, and in the north of the city of Lima. Sorry, it's 2 hours drive. It's called Ancon, and it's quite nice. It's quite nice. It's just relaxing. It's very family environment, and I miss that. I do miss that. And if I could go back in time, I would like to be there with my family, and yeah.
Nice. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Yeah, have you heard about Peruvian food?
Yeah, I mean,
so it's getting more and more popular.
It's very popular in Barcelona nowadays. There you can find thousands
worldwide.
of
It's getting
Peruvian
more
restaurants.
popular, right? So people are getting to understand what it actually is and what it means. there's a dish there because there's a huge Chinese influence in Peru, especially in Lima. Believe it or not, my great grandma was Chinese.
Okay.
So there's a dish there that's called arroz chafa. It basically is egg fried rice, but the Peruvian way. I could do that every single day of my life. I could eat that, no doubt about it. Yeah.
I'm in love with ceviche. Ceviche is my favorite.
Yeah, ceviche is really good.
Okay, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Go back in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, time traveling.
Yeah,
Perfect.
time traveling.
Time traveling. Okay, then if you make use of your superpower in terms of time traveling, and you could have dinner with any historical figure, which one would you choose?
Historical figure. Isaac Newton or Nikola Tesla?
Oh,
Isaac Newton probably. Isaac Newton probably.
Oh. I studied physics, so that would be probably one of my choices. Yeah.
I mean, the guy invented calculus in 21 when he was 21. Invented calculus because it's insane. That's for me, it's insane. It's just insane. It's impossible to believe.
Yeah. Good references. Perfect. And let's close this. Which is the best book or the best movie that you have ever read or watched?
The best movie or book?
You can either choose one, either a book or a movie.
Books, I really like. There's one book that changed my life in a way. And it sounds silly, but I love numbers. It was Introduction to Statistics and Quality Control.
Okay.
Montgomery. I think it's a 99 edition or something. Yeah, changed my approach to how do I get into business, Data driven. It was great. And movie, my dad was from the Air Force, so I had and I remember when I was going back from school, we had this tape of Top Gun, and I was playing it every single afternoon. So I knew
the first one, right? Because
the first one, when I was 5 or 6, And my dad was from the Air Force, so he was very familiar. Everything that was happening there was very familiar to me, and I had like a very close bonding to that movie,
Good recommendations. I watched recently the Top Gun, the second version of the second. Yeah, it was not the same.
It's okay, but it starts with this soundtrack of Top Gun 1, the first one. It starts with that scene, and I was like, oh, that's. I went to the movies. I went to the cinema, and I was like, oh man. Yeah, it's good.
Good good memory.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now we know we have combined your career, your professional career, and now we know your preferred superpower, who you would have dinner with, and all kind of curiosities about Jorge. Let's go back to business. Because you mentioned that you have been in different industries, different countries. Which ones would you say are the main differences between the LatAm ways of doing business and the European ways of doing business? Wow. If there is any, maybe it's a mindset, it's the technology, it's the approach, the culture.
No, you know what? It's a very interesting question, and I think that the major differences are basically two. One is the way of doing business in terms of hierarchy. In LatAm, it's very, very vertical. So when you have the manager coming into a warehouse, for instance, everyone is like, don't even talk, don't make eye contact, this kind of stuff. So it's very from far in a way. The manager is very from far away, and you have people on the shop floor. In operational environments or not, but also in planning departments or in the RE office. Your manager is he has his own office and he's sitting there, right? In Europe, however, you see that it's way more horizontal. Your manager is sitting, sharing your desk view, and there are not that the gaps between layers or between levels in a company are not that huge, that don't represent that much, This might be controversial. Well, I like to touch the nerve in my discussions. But for instance, in South America, you have a manager earning maybe 20 times what a basic salary is, and you have all your people in the shop floor earning the basic salary. So it's 20 times more. The difference in Europe is not as big as that.
No.
You know, it's maybe 2-3 times more, 4 times more, depending on which company, which right. But it's not that big of a difference. In South America, it's huge. And that's one on one hand. And another big difference is that in Latin America, you have this. Well, maybe you also have heard about it, but more or less the formal economy is very small. It's like 30%, 20%, 40%, depending on which country you're talking about. But in average, 30-35%.
Okay.
Formal economy, meaning that it's like the companies, the big towers you see, blah, 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 right? People going to the office this is the formal economy. So the majority of the economy is informal economy. That creates some sort of dynamic that even though the formal economy is smaller, it kind of rules the country in a way that what things are allowed and the regulations and so on and so forth. Meaning also that all the formal investments are aiming to the same group of people, to the same market share. Mm-hmm. And you see 2-3 companies leading each sector. And when you see that, you will also encounter a huge and fierce competition, which is basically if you're selling shoes, your competitor is breathing on your neck. So there's no room for mistakes. Because if you make a mistake, that means you lose sales. That means you lost market share. So in order to do that, you have to become very, very efficient, very good at what you're doing. So it's kind of you are sparring all day long, every time. In Europe, you don't see such a thing. It's more the competition is. You have a little bit more of room, you know.
Okay.
And therefore, what I've seen is that companies are okay-ish coexisting with mistakes, with inefficiencies, because they're.
Oh. I see your point, but I mean, I wouldn't expect that the Latin American market was more competitive than the European one.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the amount of companies that are there. If you have a small piece of land, with, for instance, you can sell fast food, a small corner, right? That's the only one allowed to sell fast food, to sell burgers. And the first hands first in. Okay, I bought this 30% of that land to make McDonald's. Then I bought one to make Burger King. Then another one, Five Guys. And you're competing in the same area.
Yeah.
And then there's no room for mistake. If you start you're dropping down your quality or whatever, people were studying to my area, and then I will start getting your way, and you're out of the scene. In Europe, what you have is not one only corner. And that corner, please don't misunderstand that. I don't mean a land by itself. It's just an example. I mean that is where the money is.
Yeah, there are more possibilities, right? And so then people
exactly which people have access to this certain service. There are more
possibilities.
Right? Exactly. So then in Europe you have is well spread. Mm-hmm. So then people basically anywhere can have access to whatever service or product you're trying to deliver. In Latin America, that's not the case. So that's why the market start to create some clusters or sectors where they're competing to that small portion that is of people or market that is open to have access to that service or product you're having. And that's where the competition starts. Understand?
Yeah.
It's quite complex. I mean, I didn't think that either when I came here in the first place. But then you have people that are very well trained, because if you don't deliver what the company or the market is asking for, one, your company will collapse and maybe
out of business,
go bankrupt and need out of business. And second of all, if you, Miguel, cannot deliver, well, there's a line of 40 people. First person is Jorge, willing to do the same thing as you're doing for less price.
Yeah.
And then that's a competition environment.
It's a competition in terms of between companies and also between opening job profiles and people are trying to apply for those
So
profiles.
that's why you feel at the end of the day that's a result. A very hostile environment in a way. It's very under pressure all day long.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so now you kind of position ourselves for the different. You spoke mainly about the culture, but what about the technology? Have you experienced or seen any major differences in terms of technology or process between both markets?
Yes, it's a very good topic. So let's say that's the underestimation of what Latin America can do, right? My previous topic, right? But there's also a flip side. In here, since there are way more resources and of course more history and trial and error, you see companies that are also having a better organizational structure, I would say. I'm not saying that it's true, it's just by my understanding or my view of the situation, right? But it's way more efficient and with less people in a way. That's on one hand. You don't need that many people to do this kind of job. And on the other hand, since also company have way more leverage to invest, they can also go to trial and error. I've seen companies, I'm not going to say brands or specific names, but I've seen companies investing millions of euros on one automation solution and then withdrawing it.
Yeah.
If you do that in South America, if you decided to go, you have to be 100% sure you're putting all your bullets in one, in one target, and that's it. There's no chance to go back.
So would you say that because of the competitive environment that you mentioned before, the companies and people are so much under pressure that they are more risk adverse, so they don't want to take that many risks because of the
100%,
very competition.
100%.
And would it be that then trying to stop risk as much as possible is kind of in contradiction with innovation? Because at the end, there is always risk when you try to implement some innovative solutions or innovative processes.
100%. And that's basically the problem that I found in South America. That there's no the risk that represents to take a step forward in terms of innovation is huge. Because if it doesn't work, there's no that time you invested in putting something in place. Well, if you cannot take any advantage from that, then somebody else will. Well, somebody else learned. Okay, that's not the way. It was the other option. I'm taking that one. And then you're out of the business. Right? But there's something else in here, and it's more not in terms of technology that is applied well, I would say. Look, when I was in 2010-11, I also when I got approached to this book that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I also got approached to my first real mentality of continuous improvement, and I got my Six Sigma agreement, and later on I got my black belt in Six Sigma. I had one guy who, it was amazing. The guy transformed a full company just by convincing people that this was the way. Continuous improvement, Six Sigma, lean, and all these principles. Later on, I also got my lean black belt. But what I've seen in South America is these things, these methodologies are not applied as much as in here. Here is just a common, it's kind of for granted, it's standard. While you're applying for a job, this, green belt, black belt, Six Sigma, whatever, it's like knowing Excel. It's kind of like that. So you have to have it. You have to have it. So, and that's something I would love to see in South America, because it's not there. It's not there. And look at it, and it's not a new methodology. It's kind of has been there for 40, 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, Six Sigma is not the trendiest things now.
No, it wasn't. It was developed in the 60s or 70s, I think. And then, so, and lean maybe later on, but it became more popular, but still is something that you have to apply. You have to at least have, 5 first principles, or, value stream mapping, how to model a process. So these kind of things should be like a day-to-day tools that you could use with your team, So, and it's something that I've seen in Europe and here in the Netherlands, kind of everywhere, and I love that.
Yeah. I mean, very results oriented. That's
Yeah.
people. Perfect. We spoke about the differences between Latin America and Europe, but I want also to check with you which are the differences between the different industries that you have been with. So your latest experience are in the life science and the healthcare industries in terms of supply chain and logistics coordination, but you also had a previous experience in on retail and fast goods and moving goods. Which are the key challenges that you see in healthcare or life science supply chain, especially, which do not exist in the retail space?
Oh, that's a great question, huh? Well, there are differences for sure. You know, in life science, you work more into looking after the patient, and basically it's a one-to-one service in a way. You know, it's very accurate. You want to deliver something specific. It's not, you are talking about big volumes. In retail and fast moving consumer goods, it's basically the opposite. You're talking about pallets. You're talking about like huge loads of truck. How do you create efficiencies in that? Right. So there are some risks that you can take on that. For instance, if you work in a warehouse and you are receiving 2 containers, you don't want to, and you're importing T-shirts. You don't want to check each one of them. They're coming from China and you're here in the Netherlands. You don't want to check one by one if they were packed and nothing is molded and the right color, blah, blah, blah. You want to check by one because you have maybe a load of, 5,000 SKUs, 100K units, So it would be super expensive. So what you do, you apply statistics. Okay, normal curve, sampling, take a sample out. So if you know how to apply your principles, you can save a lot of time with a 2%, 3% error, and then you need to know how to handle that error because you're absorbing that error into your inventory, right? So you need to take measures that, but you can take that risk. In life science, you cannot. You cannot, and that's one of the main differences. You have to be 100% sure that everything is traceable, that everything is in compliance. And everything is according to your QA, QC regulations. Not only yours, but also the ones that are required in the market you are in. It would be Europe, US, FDA, you name it. So those are the major differences.
It's a risk considered in the statistics and surely included in the price calculation, because then if we assume that there is a 2-3% errors that we assume, and that's part of the statistics, then we include this 2-3% waste or return into our price scheme. That's let's say the fast move consuming goods. While in the life science and healthcare industry, it's zero risk and everything should be 100%.
Exactly. So it's a fun fact, for instance, if you pay attention to, you go to H&M or one of these retail stores, if you see the socks, for instance, or the cheap items, right, socks, they don't have a sensor detector. They don't. Why? Because the percentage of stealing products, let's say that is 20%. Let's say, all right. Well, if you take that and you assess the cost, let's say it's like 100K.
Yeah.
Okay. But then if you want to buy sensors for all your items, which is 1 million items, and sensor is 5 cents, it's like 500K. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. Let them steal them. It's cheaper.
Yeah, but if we are talking about cancer treatment, as you were mentioning before,
exactly.
What's the value of saving people's life? So there is no value.
You cannot take that risk. There's no question. So there are some principles that when the first time I approached into healthcare was at J&J, I was battling to rewire my head. Okay, these things I cannot apply this principle here. I have to be more flexible here. I have to be more one-to-one patient driven here. Because at J&J what we're working with hospitals and clinics, and they were booking not only the implants, but also the tools that we're using to perform surgeries.
Uh-huh.
And these tools were, we have an inverse logistics to, they were renting them. So we have to get them back in and sterilize them, get them ready, and then complete the kit again and put it back into stock. So it was a very complex supply chain flow. But what I was struggling with is that the shipping was not to a store or to just to create big load, was per patient. Patient booked. You know, and that for me was like, okay, but we can do it. No, we cannot. The risk is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I had to kind of take a step back and kind of start to rewire my logic in that matter.
Probably the major switch is, I mean, in the, let's say, standard logistics is more about big volumes, efficiency, also because the margin on the logistics is very low. There's not really high added values. You were mentioning, for instance, t-shirts or stuff like that. While on the life science sector, the volumes of the products are much higher, and there is a zero risk philosophy. So that's why we need to balance out the efficiency coming from the pure logistics world, but also the quality impact. And especially, well, on the G&G, you were talking, you were in charge of medical devices, right? But there is a very important part in terms of life science logistics, which is temperature control logistics. For instance, for cancer treatments, most probably you will have temperature control. Which are the main challenges? I mean, this temperature control adds an extra layer of complexity to the 101 that you mentioned, the zero risk approach. It adds an extra layer of complexity.
Yeah, indeed. So just to build up onto what you just said, right? So in a life science environment, as you said, it's not about our big volumes, you know, but it's more about how complex the picking process could get, for instance, how your storage can get, how many regulations you have to be aware of to keep your inventory healthy and under control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so usually in the healthcare industry, you have room temperature control, and then you have 228, -20, -80, which are like the very rare ones that are like basically virus vectors or antibodies or, you know,
Pfizer COVID vaccine,
for instance, right? So, and in that matter, one of the most risky or most challenging, variables there is how do you keep traceability? How do you make sure on real time that either when you are receiving a material and we're shipping it out, you are having real time visibility? Because most of the times, the traceability is basically made in a very basic and standard way, which is a temp logger. A temp logger is a post-mortem device. You know? You
were wrong. You had a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Then look. By the way, you had a problem. How do you fix it? Well, no, you're I'm just the messenger. You know. So that's the biggest challenge. You know, because in order to admit material, if something is wrong and you really need it, then you are too late. And if something is shipped out and it's already needed and it has temperature excursion, it's already too late. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but to build up a network that can support all this traceability with the right equipment, following the right measures, it's quite complex, especially if you're going through different markets. So if you're going from Europe to US, where the regulations are different and the customs agents are different, the stakeholders are also have different standards to measure things, then there's a problem. If you are working with different companies, for instance, they might have different information. That's something I've had in the past. That for shipping the same material to US multiple times, we were getting back from our custom agents they were coming back to us saying, now you have to attach this documentation. Now you have to attach it. But previous time we didn't do that. All right, yeah, but this happens that it has been updated. And then you talk to somebody else with from a different company, we have an alternative company. No, you don't have to do that. It's basically the way you do it the first time. So then you're giving me mixed signals in here that is putting everything upside down. I'm stopping everything I'm doing here just to fix the problem because, as we said, there's a patient down the line. And then there's an urgency to do something. So these kind of things could be a little bit challenging and difficult to navigate through.
So technology, because we were mentioning about that how crucial keeping the temperature control for life science operations is. What's the more critical things, or which are the technologies that you implement to keep track of those real-time operations?
That's a good question. One of the more critical things, as I mentioned before, I think, is to have real-time visibility. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have real-time visibility, you should have at least a system that that describes your end-to-end distribution phase or process, right? By having that, you could also have the right time, the right discussions, and make the right decisions in the right time, right? So in terms of technologies, there are plenty of solutions there, right? When I was at my latest role, there was a company, I don't recall the name, but they were delivering something that is very fancy, very interesting. Basically, they were validated containers. They could even have containers, pallets, but everything was connected to a Wi-Fi signal. And also they have they could even deliver with a chip. So you have this Wi-Fi or this internet signal all along your network, your distribution network. And they were not the interesting part is that they were not controlling the temperature on the item itself. They were controlling the temperature on the shipper. Uh-huh. So they were telling you have real-time visibility on how your shipper was performing. And if you had to make any and also tell you where it has stopped, so also the full route. So I don't recall the name of the company. It was here in the Netherlands, but it was very, very interesting. Because it was also providing a control tower solution, which was connecting not only with the shippers, also with the trucks. Mm-hmm. And also with the, you need to have your destinations, if I remember correctly. But it was very, very handy for temperature control solutions.
Okay, then that drives me to the next point. Well, you know, I'm the CEO and founder of Truecalle, and basically what we do is traceability, but not only traceability, but trying to optimize the logistic processes thanks to the cold chain data. Right. And our approach in this case, Jorge, is that traceability itself, even real-time traceability, it's the standard. Before you were mentioning about the Six Sigma value stream mapping, which in Europe is the norm. We almost take this as a granted thing. Yeah. We are working on a basis that the logistics should be real-time monitored. Yeah. So that's, let's say, our baseline. And on top of that, we are not, well, we do provide real-time traceability, but our major differentiation is not about the traceability itself, but on what are we doing because having more and more information doesn't bring any value. There is no one who is monitoring so many temperature charts. You mentioned, okay, I know every single stop that someone made in the route, but who is looking at that? Really no one. Then our value proposition or our mindset while developing Truecalle is that the traceability and the real-time monitoring itself is the baseline. It's only the baseline, but we are trying to build on top of that really a cold chain brain that takes the quality considerations into account for logistics process optimization. And just to give you an example is imagine that you need to ship something from Rotterdam to South America. Yeah. And you can do it with 2 shipping lines. Yeah, but imagine that one shipping line has a double failure rate than the other one. So then for the next one, for the next shipping to South America, then you will choose the one not only for the cost of the service, but also considering the quality aspect of your shipping, coming back to your zero approach to risk.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then
absolutely.
it's not only about monitoring, but it's telling you, okay, this route from Rotterdam to South America, would it be better if you choose shipping line one?
So basically what you're trying to describe is or say product, but maybe shipping profiles. So basically how it behaves across time, the ones that tell you, right? And how reliable is IOB. I think it's a great idea. It's bringing statistics into the game.
And anticipate into risk assessment. It's kind of a dynamic risk assessment based on the data that we are capturing.
I love it, man. It's a great approach. It's a great approach. Because to be honest, I struggle having or finding people using or bringing statistics into real practice on daily basis activities, right? And it's really easy to, as you just said, to just feel comfortable with, okay, this is what the data is telling you. Okay, but then how do you create a process that actually do something with that data, right? And in order to do that, you need to have somebody just there clicking on every single or refreshing or whatever. But that's not the point of data. The point of data is you gather data and you start making decisions based on data, right? And the data should give you trends, should give you the statistics, should give you, I don't know, standard deviations, information that you can actually rely on and you can apply to make confident decisions. I love it. Sounds great, man.
Yeah. So let's see. I mean, we are new in the market, still launching, but so far we are having a very good acceptance on the market. So let's see how far we can go.
Yeah.
And now we have a new promoter in the Netherlands.
Happy to do that, man. I'm happy to spread the word around here, man.
Yeah. And which are the future trends that you see in that industry, in the cold chain industry? I mean, there are multiple technologies, and now there is a very fancy word which is called AI, which is kind of redefining the rules of the game. But at the same time, we have the limitations of operating in a very regulated industry like pharma, where we cannot freely implement AI algorithms or generative AI. So how do you see the balance of technology development, the constraints of regulation matching to make process efficiency in terms of logistics pharma?
I think you just described it very well, right? Because all these actors, I mean, AI is something undeniable. It's coming. It's already here. The question is when it's going to be relevant enough to take actually action in our daily basis activities, right? And when we can have a really tangible added value from it. And it's a thin line. I cannot predict when it's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. And the biggest challenge that it has is what you just mentioned, is the regulations that we have. It's a very controlled environment that has, as we mentioned before, there has no mistakes. And AI still has mistakes. And I still tell you something that is totally, if you ask the AI to generate an image, maybe it has an extra eye sometimes. And that cannot happen, right? Mm-hmm. But the features or advantage of AI is basically that is helping to process data way faster in ways that we've never seen before. And depending on how complex you create that, and I'm pretty sure there will come some players that will start manipulating AI to generate the outcome that we expected for the industry. And it's a matter of time, I would say. But AI, as you said, it sounds fancy, it sounds like trendy, but it's there. It is there. You see it in every single field. When people say that, yeah, but it's not gonna impact my field, it will, directly or indirectly, but it's going to happen.
I'm absolutely on the same page, and I think at some point, at least on the stage that we are now, we have to keep, especially for regulated industries like pharma, we can freely use it as far as we keep human in the loop.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is an oversight, a human oversight, and here in Europe we have the profiles of the QP or the RP, then we can embed AI into our processes while keeping human in the loop to ensure
And
transparency
that's
and
creating efficiencies.
explainability.
For instance, yes, I mean, I'm not saying that it's the right path, but you were saying who's gonna check data on activity level. Well, AI could do that, and then somebody has to validate that.
Yeah.
That could be an idea, I mean, or a way that could happen, something that could happen with AI. But there's the biggest advantage is the amount of data it can process at once, and how much time it can be in a way awake. Because
It's
an extra
24/7.
challenge, exactly, another challenge that I know that we discussed this before, but when we talk about you in connectivity or interaction between US, LatAm, or APAC and Europe, time difference is a big challenge. In my previous role, I needed to be sometimes joining a meeting at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning, and joining a meeting at 10 or 11 p.m. in the evening. And that's not sustainable. So if you have something that can process the data and make a decision, you can have rules for certain type of decision that can be made by AI, that cannot be made by AI. I mean, the sky is the limit. Huh?
And okay, we've talked about the differences between different continents, different industries, technology, but I would like to finish by talking about the people. Because at the end, technology can be great, but technology, at least in 2025, who knows what's going to happen in the future, is going to be used by humans and people beings. And then it's not, especially when working in big companies, it's very important not the people as individuals, but how create a high-performing team. So which are your experiences? Because you also mentioned that you had to create teams from scratch. So which are your guidelines, your rules, your strategy to create high-performing teams?
Man, for me, I mean, I love being a people manager. I love to talk to people. I love to what I like the most is to discover what each individual is good at and how do you put the dots together and then start having some independent behavior in a way, so that for me is a key element to have a successful team, to address what each individual is good at, because when you address that, you give ownership to that person, that specific skill, and the person believes that, and you empower the person. Not only that, but they will feel that there's when it comes up, when it comes in, when there's something about a specific topic, the person will know that you always call him or her. You always call her. And then I am the person for this.
The reference for that specific
exactly topic. And then you have that in your full team for different topics, and you have and other people start reaching out to that person, and then the other way around for other topic, and so on and so forth. And you have a full team, that is very good at what they do. And then you are there for just guidance, and but and kind of driving the team, but you are not taking care of each one of the tasks that each individual has to do. And then you give you build confidence, you build a full dynamic of teamwork, and that for me that's the best reward I can have when I see one of the teams that I have the chance to lead. That's the best reward I had. Yeah.
Jorge, I'm so jealous. I mean, for me, being people manager is one of the hardest things I have to do in my position.
I mean, it's difficult, of course, there are pros and cons, right? So whenever
I can cope very well with technology, with stakeholders, with investors, with customers, but managing people, yeah, as you mentioned, very specific, different profiles. Everyone has his own priorities, things to think about. So it's a real challenge. So, but definitely one of the more rewarding things when things.
I can just to wrap it up. I have a great story about one person, and I always remember that because for me it's one of the biggest kind of breakthroughs that I have had in terms of leading people. As a people manager, there was one guy that when I hired him, he was okay, you know, he was okay in the role, but he was not excelling in it, and he knew that, and I knew that, but we also knew that at some point that couldn't be the case anymore because the company was asking something different from him, and I had to talk to him one-on-one, like, you don't have to please me, you have to tell me something that you think I want to hear. No, let's be honest, no mask here. What is happening? I can help you. I can help you from this point on. I'll be there for you. We discuss it. Okay, you're right, Jorge. I will be okay. There was one time we need to develop some sort of logic for a certain tool, and I started to use a decision-making tree. Like, I never used that before.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I was using that, I unlocked the logic that worked for him, and the guy was going even faster than I was doing. Even though I was very familiar with the tool, the guy, something popped in his head, pop, da 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 da, and ever since he started using that methodology to solve all his problems, and he became the reference on that department. It was insanely. It was like this, and then eventually he ramped up.
Found his thing.
Exactly, he found his thing, and for me it was so rewarding to see that he found his thing, you know. So I still enjoy every time I tell this story, man, because it's a true story. Yeah? It's unbelievable.
So to wrap up our conversation, I also want you to explain a true story. The name of the podcast is Called Secrets. So typically we ask our guest invites to share with the audience any crazy story that you have feel or suffer in your professional career, which can be a secret, but an explainable secret. Some challenging situation, something that you have overcome, or something that, well, was really a failure and you learn from it.
There was, yeah. It's a cult secret, yeah. It's a cult secret, but it's something that I've learned from it, and it turned out well at the end. Because at some point in my career, when I was starting, I moved from logistics to planning, and then I was going through some personal issues, but with my personal health, and I started like leaving my work aside because I was fully focused on. It was 2 years of kind of going through a health situation, and then eventually I was putting at risk my job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was relocated. It was kind of a downgrade. It was relocated into a different role. And to me, it was very easy to do. I was finishing I organized my full week, and I was finishing in 3 days, everything that I needed to do. And I talked to my manager, you know, I'm bored, you know. Yeah, well, we will see what I can do. Blah, blah. Eventually, I left the company, and when I left the company, there was it didn't feel like I left in the best terms, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years later, the company reached out to me again for the work that I was doing. Reached out to me, we want you back. I mean, it was a promotion over the promotion I already had in the previous role, so it was a step up in my career. But yeah, that's something that most people don't know, because you know when something bad happens, everyone thinks that your career is going in a straight line.
Yeah,
you know, but
that's ups and downs are not so easy to explain.
You know, indeed. So if you have, I don't know, a bad performance, or if you've been downgraded in your role, or if you've been fired, that's part of the. If you're playing a game in a way, you are part of the game of business. You know, so you cannot expect that it will be like flat, no unpredictable or predictable, and with no bumps. Especially if you are going to be here for 35, 40 years, more or less, even more sometimes. So something will happen, and you have to have the guts to go through it, overcome it, and eventually you will look back and say, okay, I've learned from that. And I've learned from that, and I also overcame that issue or that challenge, and eventually worked out. So yeah, that's pretty much something
Perfect.
personal, cool
Story.
secret that I could share.
Thank you, Jorge, for sharing. It was a great pleasure having you today with us. Hope you enjoyed the conversation.
I really enjoyed it, Mil. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, man. It was great. I hope I've been helpful for your podcast and the project you have here. I think it's a great idea to. I also mentioned that to somebody else. I was invited to a different podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I think that talking about or creating the room and creating the space to talk about the industry we all know and we are all part of. I think it's great because most people, especially the people that are not in supply chain, they most of the time think, okay, it's just a matter of moving boxes. What's so complex about it? You know, yeah. And I do get it because I would think the same thing if I would be an outsider. But this kind of rooms or this kind of projects that you guys are making helps to kind of share all the issues and how all the complexity we have to go through. And I think it's a great job. It's amazing.
Yeah, especially when we have very relevant people and knowledgeable people who knows what they are talking about. So thanks again, Jorge. Great pleasure. Take care and see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. Take care, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.